today with a viewer-submitted variation of Esper Witch. It's a little bit different than the build that we had played with the Leonin. What's it called? I don't remember its name. The thing that gives all of our things +1/+1. But I do think the white splash in here is still very reasonable. We've got Vanishing Verse and Faithful Mending as pieces of good removal, and then some card selection. That's also 2 spells for our Witch and Poppet Stitcher. Light Scribe, that's the one, Leonin Light Scribe. We've got some Memory Deluge at the top of our curve for some extra card advantage. One card that the original submitter included that I ended up cutting was Can't Stay Away, and that's a card that, like, it looks like it would be reasonable on the surface, but in my experience playing this format, because almost all of the control decks are essentially combo control decks playing Epiphany, grinding your opponent out with card advantage from something like Can't Stay Away really doesn't feel good, and I'd much rather have something like Memory Deluge. That this is kind of like Can't Stay Away in a way, because it's a card that finds us threat density, but it also can find us answers when we'd rather have answers rather than threat density. So Can't Stay Away is more one-dimensional, whereas something like Memory Deluge is a little bit more flexible. I think this deck gets to play a lot of good cards, and I think like Fading Hope and Duress are very reasonable. One thought in my mind that I'm going to be curious to see is, do Village Rites feel like they have enough fuel to make them happen consistently with only two 8 ways, 2 cards to enable it? So I'm gonna be interested to see. I think if this card feels like we don't consistently have enough food for it, we might want to turn some number of these into more Memory Deluge. I think some number of this is fine, but I think there's a good chance this gets clunked up in our hand without things to sacrifice to. So let's go ahead and dive on into some games and play a match or two before we make some changes, and we'll iterate and go from there. Thanks for the resubs this morning. Fight Me, thanks for the 22. LD, thanks for the 61 months. Thanks for the over 5 years. Yeah, if you haven't checked out Unite yet, the Pokemon MOBA is a ton of fun. It is easily the most I have played a non-card game since, like, undergrad, playing first-person shooters. I played an unhealthy amount of Counter-Strike Source in undergrad. The darkness of the moon rising, the endless turns of the world. It's time to return to humans' power. This is for green, white humans and standard. Sounds good, Jellybean. Do you want to revisit green, white humans today, or does another day work better for you? Just let me know. I talked about Siphon Insight. Yeah, Siphon Insight is fine. We played that in the previous variation of this deck that I played. It's nice that it gives you extra threat density while also being a card that enables your other things. That's another card where if Village Rites feels kind of mediocre, we could consider Siphon Insight in that slot. The Village Rites slots is kind of like this is card advantage slot, and Siphon Insight fills that role as well. Did it do the old pair us and draw thing? I'm told this loses us rank. Let's see if that's the case. We're 59 before that match. I'm told there's a bug where when it draws like that, it loses us rank. Yeah, wow. It dropped us. We dropped 4 spots because of that. What an awful system. Like, I don't think the randomly, like, it gooing a draw because someone cancel queued's a big deal. Sounds good, Jellybean. I'll probably do it. We'll probably do it after this one. Thanks for the biddies. Oh, and that one was reasonable last time we played it. Why are we even that high in Mythic anyways? If you didn't watch our run with Shamans from yesterday, it is quite a silly run. Yeah, we had good runs. We had good runs with actually both the historic decks we played yesterday were quite strong. We played Grixis Valky and Green Red Shamans. And if you don't want to watch the full segments, those will both have highlights on the Daily Deck Digest at some point in the next week. Yeah, we had some okay matches with Standard as well. Can I keep this with no blue stars? I feel like I can't. This is much better. And I already have, like, my land, all my colors of lands and my plays lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and sit on the Consider for now to try and play it post Poppet Stitcher, I think. Try and clear with Duress here. See if we can get rid of a removal spell before it happens. I'll take the Divide by 0. Maybe I'm just supposed to take the Epiphany. Hopefully we draw a land next turn and we can play Poppet with Consider up. My body is ready for them to kill this with a spell off of our deck. And it's like, well, am I supposed to like wait to play that out until I could generate a token with it? But even just the token from it isn't that good, right? Do I want to Duress Spike Field Hazard? No, I think I'm just looking for a threat here. Take a Negate. I probably should have sat on the second Consider there. Well, that stops Cletus from flipping for free at least. Faithful Mending is actually an interesting, like, pseudo-solution to things like Village Rights being stranded. Because it does let us loot a little bit. Let the birdies hit the board. Let the birdies hit the board. Let the birdies hit the board. Cool, cool. Cool, cool. Three months, Gus. Welcome back. And then, I mean, like, honestly, at this point, I just, like, don't... Like, we're just, like, I don't really have a way to stabilize and kill these birds, right? Like, we're just dead. We're dead in 3 more, and there's no way we're killing them before then. Chicky McNugs, thanks for the 2-month resub. And I suppose in a matchup like this, we just want to increase our threat density. I think we want probably some ways to kill their, what's it called? Like at least 3 to take Lear off the table, even a couple of Fading Hopes as both a tempo play and a way to pick my threats back up. Actually, Stroke's probably better than Fading Hope. Yeah, this is pretty good. We'll get tap land on 1 into land Duress on 2 into hopefully Sedgemoor Witch in the clear on 3. Yeah, increased threat density feels like a big deal. Probably just that one. We went 13 and 3 in total yesterday, according to Tapped Out. Yeah, I'd believe that. That was a pretty good run. All right, and with this draw, we'll actually lead on this, since I have the land to follow up Sedgemoor Witch. That way we can play Witch and get her flipped right away. This is exactly what we want to be doing in a matchup like this. We've got pressure down, and now we've got some disruption, so if we don't have a sweeper this turn, we should be in a pretty good spot. The Expressive Iteration this turn is great for us. No, we'll take a Duress for sure. All right, deal. We take those. It's interesting that Arena lets you have an email address as your username. That's not something I would have thought it would allow. Would not recommend it. Think of all the wonderful emails you could collect from your opponents when they're happy for having played Magic with you. This hand obviously needs lands, but we're on the draw, and it has 2 threats and 2 counterspells. Jackie, thanks for the 26 months. Welcome back. Oh, yeah, you might get unsolicited deck picks, and that would probably not be great. Having to sort through other people's jank doesn't sound particularly great. Using your email address is one thing. Using your email address while playing Control, it is. It's a bold strategy. Come on, untap land. Nailed it. I'm just playing my Witchy Poo out here. I'm just getting rid of that. I think we're at the point where counter spells are better than the discard spells. Says Menace, so it attacks past here. I'm gonna go ahead and play Hermit out here, because Hermit is a counter spell that they can't Hermit. You know, honestly, I'm just gonna go ahead and counterspell this, because it lets me flashback Hermit, which makes my counterspells uncounterable. Definitely want more blue, not more white here. I think I'd rather negate than Disdainful Stroke, because Stroke can counter Leer, whereas negate cannot. Onto that land there, since we've got Faithful Mending. Okay, but like, what if we didn't? Okay, felt pretty reasonable post board. Rank 42. Is Esper the answer to all things in the universe, chat? Thought that was 42%. Yeah, we're climbing our way back up. It was a rough day. Up to 42%. Yeah, I mean, we get to play counter spells, and we have somewhat aggressive draws, which are the two things you want to be doing against Epiphany. For sure. Ah, yes. When you Duress the mono green aggro deck and can take literally any spell out of their hand. Maybe I should have let on Poppet for their first fight spell. I wanted to get Witch down so that way we could start holding up blockers, but Incendium. Thank you for the 57 months of Prime. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Ah, green Doomblade. Ah, green Doomblade. And this is the kind of awkward part of Faithful Mending, right? Like, I just don't want to cast it here. Yeah, it was better than Doomblade, is accurate. All right, now we'll cast it because we have a land, so we can turn our land into a spell. I think I'm just supposed to do this. Okay, so I think I Faithful Mending to mill to make a token here. And then we'll flip this over. To the 26 months ago, Golly, welcome back. Thanks for all the support you've given here over that time. Here's how our zombies turned into real attackers. So Wordkill and Vanishing Verse are excellent here. I think I trim some number of village rates. Would I rather have Duress or Negate here? I think I like Duress better. Being able to sculpt our game plan off of knowing what they have in their hand seems powerful. That's actually not true, Destin. The mono black control decks, the Blood on the Snow decks, for example, to have a bad green matchup because the green deck's really good at grinding them out. The green deck is a really good at attrition. Play a removal spell this turn, and then plan to Duress plus removal spell next turn. Be a little sad when this Duress misses here. Nope. Actually, just every spell again. Target creature with flying, destroy an artifact. Why is Tangle Trap in their deck against me? What's up with that? Oh, it kills the Poppets and artifact when it flips over. Is a good shout. The Vanishing Verse this Ranger class when they put it to 3. That's like a really good one to know about, because we can just like pretend our Poppet just makes decayed tokens. No, I actually think this is fine. I legitimately forgot that Poppet turned into an artifact. Now, I do have Faithless Looting in my deck, so we're going to start holding extra lands at this point. Okay, removal spell's nice. Well, so like, versing the class is a good tempo play. It is not, however, a great, versing the class is a good tempo play. It is not, however, a very good card advantage play, because like I technically got 2 for 1. And I'm through 3 Vanishing Verses at this point, so this Toski is just gonna like put me in the ground. Which is big sad. I have a 5-stack lined up for this afternoon's Pokemon Unite session, so I'll get to play the squirrel for the full 2 hours this afternoon, guaranteed. I posted a patch review plus a highlight of like what the squirrel does this morning. Yikes. Yikes. Alright, knowing that they have Toski, we'll want to bring in our Soul Shatter for the next game for sure. You can always find the deck list on your screen via the Untapped widget. They added Greedent to Unite in today's patch. I do cube drafts on occasion. I don't really do Moto though. Not really interested in using that platform. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of sweet that they're adding a variety of different pokes and not just the super popular ones. If you want my thoughts on the Pokemon patch notes, check out the Pokemon Highlight channel. It has a video up there from this morning. Posted about 45 minutes ago. How do I adjust this build for best of 1? I would not play this deck in best of 1. I think playing a mid-range interactive deck in best of 1 is a very stupid thing to do. If you want to play best of 1 Magic, you should play linear aggressive decks or super controlling decks. Nah, I haven't been following Runeterra at all. Okay. Okay. It's just like Dub's Fading Hope here. It's a shame I don't have 1 more mana. Honestly, I kind of want to cut the Faithful Mendings. The fact that I held lands this game has bit me in the ass so hard. And honestly, I think the Faithful Mendings are probably just better as the 1 mana blue card. I think I'm gonna make that swap after here. No, the flashback card. Yeah, the better brainstorm. The fact that the salvaging encourages you not to play your lands out in our Memory Deluge deck is not great. I mean, I don't know about Otherworldly Gaze being hype, but I think like Otherworldly Gaze is playable is definitely. It's nothing like Brainstorm. We make fun of the person that said it was better Brainstorm because that comparison is ridiculous. But like, the card's definitely proven to be playable in different spots. It's just not remotely comparable to the best cantrip that exists in Magic. Yeah, we probably could have won this game if I hadn't been holding lands for Faithless Mending. And, like, it's right to hold lands for Faithless Mending. I just think I probably shouldn't have it in my deck. I'm going to cut it here, and we'll swap it for something else in the next, after this set. Ponder versus Brainstorm is contextual. So Ponder's better in non-fetch land formats, but Brainstorm's definitely better in fetch land formats. Brainstorm's more than a cantrip when you have fetch lands. It's like a draw 3 in a lot of situations. You want to cut white entirely? I don't know if I want to cut white entirely. I think Vanishing Verse is pretty good, and I think the Stop It decent. I don't really want another threat. Like, I don't know that Lear solves any problems that we have. Yeah, Vanishing Verse is really good. And like playing pathways in the fast land is like we could play basic lands and some, like, the question basically comes down to, is Hive of the Eye Tyrant better than Vanishing Verse? Which it might be. Maybe we should test that. It is extra threat density. But that's like the trade-off, right? Because the cost of playing the white cards is no creature lands. Is like the TLDR. But like take this matchup for example, right? Like Vanishing Verse is just one of the best cards we can have here, right? No, I actually think it's been a while since we've had one of those formats, Pixevil. I think Wizards has actually done a really excellent job at designing interesting mana bases. I think this current format has probably the most interesting mana bases in it that I've ever built in a Magic format. It feels like you are able to play 3-color decks reasonably in this format, but there's actual, is what I'm gaining worth the trade-off? Because the mix of utility lands and how the fixing works means it's not just a free roll. And this is, we talked about this with Village Rites. Like, obviously I'm a little bit flooded here, but the fact that Village Rites is a card advantage spell that isn't card advantage when I don't have one of my best cards in play is hella awkward. Like, imagine if this is a Memory Deluge here, right? And get to cast Deluge and dig. And honestly, we're probably just dead at this point, right? Well, they're choosing to play around a sweeper. That's good for us. Did you draw Snakeskin Veil? Definitely dead to that. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna retool the card advantage suite. I'm gonna cut the Faithful Mendings. Or fetches and shocks were in standard. We had fetch lands. We did have fetch lands alongside dual lands they could fetch, but they weren't shock lands. Yeah, with Tarkir. Yeah, standard decks were like, standard decks during Tarkir cost as much as Flesh and Blood decks cost. for a comparison. What if we did... What if we did this? This looks relatively clean. I kinda want some gaze though. I think Otherworldly Gaze is actually pretty okay here. Putting Hermit in the main actually makes gaze even better too, because it gives us something to more things to put into the bin for value. I think I like Hermit better than Negate in the main. Oh, I like some go blanks for the sideboard, perhaps. That could be okay. Let's try this. Rotten Reunion might be better than Gaze. I think you're underestimating the power of Gaze to fix your draws. Rotten Reunion needs a target too, right? It does not. It's up to. God, fuck people. Stop it. Man, that was honestly the worst suggestion I've seen in a long time. Let's cut our Poppet Stitcher threat for a Leer. Y'all need to take your crappy 5-mana cards and, like, stop it. Get some help. Especially cutting, like, the 2 cards our deck is built around and, like, has made a bunch of deck building decisions to play. Like, the cut a bad card we were cutting anyways for Leer is one thing. Cut the key card the deck is built around for a Leer is... God, stop it, Twitch chat. Probably want to slow them down. Body is ready to be brawled. I think we lead on this because I want this one to live more. Okay, deal. All right, time to use our life total as a bit of a resource. It's a shame we weren't on the draw this game. That would have been busted. I think suggesting Baleful Mastery shows a fundamental misunderstanding of how good Vanishing Verse is at not only answering problem cards, but also how much of a drawback letting your opponent draw a card is. So I think there's a chance that cutting Vanishing Verse and not playing the splash and having creature lands is good, but I wouldn't play Baleful Mastery. Baleful Mastery is not a particularly good card. Letting your opponent draw a card when you kill their threat is a big deal. If I were to test, I don't know that we're going to do it today, but if I were to test this archetype a bunch, I would definitely want to consider testing a build. I would definitely want to consider testing a build that was just 2 colors, but Baleful Mastery is not just a slot in for Vanishing Verse. Vanishing Verse wouldn't be good if it was just that simple. We're in game 2. Why are we going to game 2? Can you explain? What's the deal?
We did not choose this fight.
They're gonna hit me for 8. I'm gonna gain 1. I'm gonna end up at 6. I want this to be a 3-3. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers. 6 attackers if I go to 1. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers. I go to 1 here. Is that crazy? I guess this has trample. Yeah, let's go to 6. I think it's better to go to 6. Well, no, I'd have 6 blockers. If I'm not jumping with this, I have 7 creatures currently, so I'd have 6. Man, who's glad we didn't go to 1, chat? Definitely me. Very glad we didn't go to 1. Zombies block. It would be impressive. In paper Magic, I could block with the zombies. On Magic Arena, not so much. Alright, and we've got the board stabilized, and we're just like a Memory Deluge or an Otherworldly Gaze or some type of something or other away from stabilizing here. Their attacks here aren't that great. So we go like block. So we go like double here, single here, double here, single here, go down to 1. These trade. I like to have a 3-3 left over. We just hope to draw a spell next turn. I'm still not dead on board, right? Because I can do this and do this. I have to trade with my witch, but I'm not dead. And we're not dead on board again. I actually think their attack was bad here because, yeah, I would have died if they would have just like made a token and passed. I just wouldn't have had enough blockers here, but because they attacked, I have enough blockers now. Because I got to eat things with these last turn. Come on. I mean, that's enough to stay alive, right? And actually, I think I'm actually supposed to cast this now because I could bin a Malevolent Hermit, which I could flash back here. So I lose the surprise, but if I find a Hermit, I want to be able to put Hermit into play. So I left one of these on top because I want to be able to, Want to be able to cast it next turn. Oh, wow. Fuck this Faceless Haven draw. Does that kill me? God, the top of their deck was just unreal this game. That was a really frustrating game of Magic. Like, we drew infinite lands, and they drew just mono chunkers. We needed the Otherworldly Gaze 1 card sooner. Needed that 1 card sooner, so we'd have had better blocks and not having to. Notably, if we would have had the Gaze 1 turn sooner, we wouldn't have had to chump block with the Sedgemoor Witch. I completely disagree with that, my little tutorial. I think the mono green deck is very attackable. It's just most of the things. Like, also, I'm just gonna, like, that's just such a shit comment. Like, it is unfathomable to me that Magic players can watch this game where I had infinite lands and my opponent hit running spells that were all great into their land that attacked, and like the conclusion is the mono green deck is too strong. Chat, that's just how Magic the Gathering works. Like, I know that game sucks to lose, but like Magic is full of games that suck like that. It's a core feature of the platform. That game had nothing to do with my opponent's deck being oppressive. I didn't get to play Magic because not getting to play Magic is something that happens quite frequently. Well, so you have to remember, spell lands are single-colored lands. So, like, I only have 2 basics in my deck, and I think you need some number of basics in this format. Ooh, breaking Duress feels bad. Yeah, I don't even know if that's, like, a minus 500 comment, right? Like, saying that Magic is a game that has a lot of non-games is just descriptive. It's not me shitting on Magic. It's a feature, chat. It's a feature of the resource system. And it's fine to not like that feature and to like play other things because of it, but it's also very silly to pretend like that's not a thing. It's why it's important when you're like assessing decks and talking about one of the things. It's so difficult to get really large sample sizes when it's impossible to get statistically significant sample sizes when testing decks. So like you can look at that last game that we played and you ask yourself, okay, why did this game go the way it went? And you can like come to the conclusion it was because the mono green deck was oppressive, or you can come to the conclusion that like, yeah, we flooded out at an inopportune time and my opponent's deck had gas on it 3 turns in a row. Like that just happens, right? Like there's gonna be games like this where I just don't have spells. Same with every game of all time. Well, that's also just very much not true. Like the idea that every game has a bunch of non-games in it is just objectively wrong. We're not even playing that many lands, chat. We've got 22 actual lands, and like we've got a good chunk of card selection. Thanks for the follow, stay messy. All of the decks that are marked as favorites here, Dazin, are decks that I have loaded up that may or may not be up for deck voting. Pick ones that tickle my fancy and let you all pick from them. Once we're through the donation decks. That draw, we actually just play this out to block the Magda here. It is, and again, this is where you can be critical and think about what's happening in your games. It is worth noting here that had my deck been 2 colors this game, I would not have had 2 slow lands, which meant I could have played untapped if this was an island, and then I could have duressed on 1, likely stopping this chariot from happening. So this sequence here that happened for my opponent, obviously they could have top decked this, but they likely had it in their opener. And the sequence that occurred here was because we were splashing white for Vanishing Verse. And those are the types of things that you have control over that are a choice we made during deck building that has now put us a little bit behind. And that's when you're trying to become better at Magic and you want to improve your decks, you want to be thinking about, okay, where did my decisions cost me percentage points? Chat, as always, okay, and look here. It actually just didn't matter. Actually just didn't matter. Oh, I think we're just supposed to take this hit and try and get some tokens rolling. Okay. We probably did here. But in the end, it doesn't even matter anymore. Upkeep stop? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was thinking about top rating. We're being honest with ourselves. Just did. Let's trim a couple of Duresses, because I think I just want more cards that play to the board here. We have dragon noises in the loading screen now instead of just eerie silence. I'll count that as an upgrade. It is worth noting we were also on the draw that game. Like, honestly, had we been on the play, I think we would have beaten the turn 3 chariot. The tempo of being on the draw and the turn 3 chariot was definitely too much, though. Maybe this is not a Duress matchup. Maybe it's a Stroke matchup. They've got Predator and Goldspan. If we get a game 3, we'll swap these out for Stroke, perhaps. My body is ready for them to have top decked a removal spell here. Deal Reno. No box. Otherworldly Gaze definitely looking better than Faithful Mending here. In that, draw the Shipwreck. First, the Stormseeker have card advantage set to go next turn. Chill on the Memory Deluge for this turn. I want to hold up Verse in case they have a Goldspan. It's so strange to me that the day-night cycle keeps going when the day-night cards aren't in play. Feels like that'll be real annoying to track in paper. Good thing I don't plan to paper boomer anytime soon. I played the pre-release, it's awful to track. Yeah, I believe it. Wait, me casting the Otherworldly Gaze here counters their 1/1 counter, right? That's how magic works. Yeah, good stuff. Honestly, I think I'm into these two. I'm definitely into like throwing a token away for 3 damage plus life. I don't think all of paper magic's annoying. To give you a pointed example, something that's actually better in paper magic than Magic Arena does is in Magic Arena, when you click to look at your graveyard, it shows your opponent that you're clicking to look at your graveyard. And in paper magic, they wouldn't get to see that you're clicking to look at your graveyard. So you actually give away information on Magic Arena that you wouldn't have to give away in paper. The Magic Arena Shuffler is sus. Fuck off. Go take a probability and statistics class if you think the Magic Arena Shuffler is sus. Get some, also stop and get some help. That help should include taking a probability and statistics class. And then here's the other way. Let's assume the let's assume for a moment, if we could, the Magic Arena Shuffler is rigged. Guess what, chat? That means it's fucking rigged for both players and it's balanced. But it's not. You just don't understand how random works, and you don't shuffle your deck properly in paper. That's the cold hard truth. You don't shuffle properly in paper. Do I want all these power word kills? I think I do. They have a lot of, yeah, killing Magda and their werewolf is important. The number of people who think random means uniformly distributed. The people that are like, oh, I had all lands or no lands, so the shuffler's rigged. It's like, well, random includes clumps. One of the topics, for people that aren't familiar with my background, I have a master's degree in mathematics. I've taught probability and statistics classes at the college level. And one of the exercises I would always make a point to do with my students when teaching probability and statistics is a really great exercise is you ask the class to generate groups of random numbers within a range, and without fail, essentially every time you ask a group of humans to generate random numbers, they will give you something that's relatively uniformly distributed and doesn't contain clumps. People that haven't explicitly been taught that clumps are random, if you ask humans to generate random, they almost never include clumps intuitively. It's a topic to talk through. Yeah, there's also some inherent cognitive bias towards picking particular numbers more than others too, where larger studies have been done, which is funny. Only 10 more months to go. Thanks for the 59 months, Marty. I think probability and statistics classes are a ton of fun, but that's also why I have a master's degree in mathematics, because I thought school and math were fun. I have a master's degree for 3 reasons, chat. I didn't want to get a real job. I liked math. I didn't have to pay for it myself. It was a good combination of things. All right, so now the question here is, do I stroke this or do I Vanishing Verse it? The upside to stroking this is I can't Vanishing Verse a... It's time, Cardboard Tech with the Shillionaire Redemption. Remember, you get to submit a deck with that. You could submit it through the forum. Just put in the comment that it is your Shillionaire deck. And you also get a special role in the subs Discord server if you're there. DM me in the Discord server. so I know what your username is, and I'd be happy to hook you up with that. Thanks for watching a ton. And of course, the trickle-down economy in action here. Shillionaire is now that much more achievable for all the plebs at home. The next Shillionaire redemption will now only cost 999,953 shillings. It's a Den of the Bugbear down here. I think we just take all the removal spells, huh? Just, you get a Doomblade, and you get a Doomblade. Everybody gets a Doomblade. Buggy Bear gonna fire up here, so we're gonna take a total of 3 on this attack down to 10, so I'm gonna trade 1/1s. What are ways I can increase my shilling production? So, tier 2 and tier 3 subs do acquire channel points at a slightly higher rate, and once every 30 days, you can share 50 bits or more, or gift 1 sub to get a small boost in shillings. But you can only do each of those other things once per month. You can't just do them endlessly to buff up your metrics. Thanks for the biddies, no Denny. That's true. You could also just always be watching the stream. Hang out for the variety stuff and everything that I'm doing. Best way to collect them is just watching. Yeah, being subscribed to the channel gives you a small boost too. I think tier 1 subs get 1.2x multiplier, tier 2 are 1.4, and tier 3 are 2x. Okay, I mean, we're at the end of our resources here, but we also have a Memory Deluge to flashback, which is nice. And this Vanishing Verse. The real question here is, when they fire up this Den of the Bugbear this turn, oh, they have something else to cast that's actually kind of good for us. Maybe it's good for us. It means I don't take damage this turn, which is nice. Okay, we have the answer to that at least, kind of. We have the answer to part of that. Threat and removal spell. So, in general, determining how many copies of a card you want to play based on how frequently you want to draw that card makes sense. What that kind of level 1 thinking does not... Oh, I can't double Vanishing Verse this turn. Oh, I did not pay back. I didn't pay all blue. Never mind. What that kind of level 1 deck building thinking does not address, however, is cards that fill similar roles. So, for example, looking at this deck that I'm currently playing, you'll note that I have 3 Vanishing Verse and 1 Power Word Kill in my main deck. Those cards both fill the same role of being a 2-mana removal spell in most spots, where one has small upside in some situations and the other has small upside in some other situations. So there's value in playing cards that fill the same role but are slightly better in slightly different edge cases. A good example of this, if you're familiar with Historic, You have Thoughtseize and Inquisition in Historic. Inquisition is a little bit better against aggro. Thoughtseize is a little bit better against control. And if you say to yourself, okay, I want 4 discard spells, you might play 2 of each to give you 4 of a similar effect, where 1 slightly better and slightly worse in other spots. It's your finger puppets. We have to consider make another token and then have a bunch of 3/3s here. Excuse me? They have a Play with Fire? Is their card in hand? So that's 20 months mixed in. Sin, welcome back. Unfortunately, I don't think I can just take 4 there. So if they have Play with Fire, they have Play with Fire. Yeah, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and bin this here, I think. And then before I flip this during my upkeep, I think I want to leave blue up here. I'm gonna go ahead and flash this back. Get that extra zombie token before we flip it. No, they passed priority to me, Marty, signaling they were going to move to combat. So we were in their attacker step there where I killed their thing. They just weren't going to crew the chariot if I didn't have a removal spell. Yeah, honestly, I think we just smash, right? Thanks for the follow, Suzel. Yeah, Poppet Factory turns the corner hard. For sure. Hard and fast corner turn. BT Dubs, if you're new to the channel like Suzel brought, that triple D command stands for Daily Deck Digest. It's my YouTube channel where I post a sweet deck highlight every single day of the week. Usually I post a couple of standard and some historic decks there as well throughout the course of the week. Today's highlight video was featuring Abzan Venture into the Dungeon. We had a sweet set with earlier this week. It's a great place to find things that are a little bit off the beaten path and still relatively competitive. Thanks for the brand new Prime, Ultimaniac. There's a lot of great people you can send that to every single one. Thanks for sending it this way this month. Blue is the most common color land in my mana base, and I can play Magic even without a blue land, so I'm going to be a little greedy and keep this. Duress into Witch is pretty good, and if we hit a blue source, the hand is very good. Hey, good games. You were the Jund player, I'm guessing. Good luck in the rest of your laddering. That was a close set. I definitely messed up leaving Duress in for the second game. Perfect. Never didn't have it. A true skill game. Definitely just Aldrin's Epiphany here, huh? We have a date for Hooch. We have a date, but not a format. The next Toglandia tournament will be on November 14th, and channel subscribers will get to vote on whether or not that tournament will be standard or historic later this month. Probably early next month. Like, look for it around Halloween. I'm gonna send out a sub survey on like the 31st or the 1st or the 2nd. I want some spoilers from the new set to be out so people can have some idea of which format they'd like to see cards in. Quick, Johnny! Thanks for the 19 months. Welcome back. Thank you for the 19 months as well, Balasar. Or bouncing my thing, sure. There's our next open command. Says the date. Pick up my friend here. Fine to stay on top, I think. This is one of the reasons why Fading Hope is so good in this archetype, too. You just get to do stuff like this and keep your thing alive. And then, obviously, they have another Battle of Frost and Fire, but just gotta work our way through it. Yeah, Fading Hope definitely put a damper in Fajara's Retribution becoming a format staple. No Battle of Frost and Fire here is bold. We played Black-White Angels. If you look back, it was like the first week of this format. If you're looking for what a Black-White Angels list looks like, updated post-rotation, compared to Standard 22 from last season. You can look back on the main YouTube channel. That chat, we got to draw 2 cards with our Consider. And honestly, I think I Consider here again because we can hit a Duress, right? We just draw that and pass here. I don't want to play Memory Deluge now because I think it's pretty likely to get divided by 0. Yes, that's where I plan to start, Steve. I posted a video on the Unite highlight channel this morning that goes through Greedent's moveset and showcases how they work, and I think that definitely seems like the stronger place to start. Against most typical control decks, I'd be feeling relatively okay here, but the fact that they're a combo control deck means that, like, this card advantage that I'm accruing can largely just be ignored. We're kind of hoping to draw an 8th land next turn, so that way I can go Witch, Duress, and Deluge from hand. The moderators of the Pokemon Unite subreddit told me they don't allow you to post gameplay content on their subreddit. Sorry, you can't post gameplay content that's longer than 30 seconds on their subreddit. Which, if that leaves you with the question of, well, Jeff, if you can't post gameplay content on the game subreddit, what content does the subreddit have? It's mostly people complaining about the game mechanics and their solo queue teammates. Like, no joke, basically every post on the subreddit is people just bitching about their solo queue teammates. Or the Zapdos mechanic or something else like that. What combo is the opponent leveraging? Aldrin's Epiphany? Yes. Oh yeah, very typical of the game genre. It's just weird to me that they didn't allow. Yeah, or games of them winning bot matches. Yeah. Man, Divide by Zero bouncing Frost and Fire is pretty good. Definitely want the Poppet. I think I'm bidding these other two. Yeah, it's a shame we weren't drawing the Rebirth. It's true. I'm just gonna take the cantrips here. People on the Destiny 2 subreddit just complaining that skill-based matchmaking doesn't let them stomp in multiplayer. You know, it's funny, but that's actually the reason why Best of 3 draft doesn't have a ranked mode on Magic Arena. Is because if you're doing ranked stuff, you need to be pairing based on MMR, and the limited players were upset that they couldn't play against worse players and stomp and be profitable in draft if it was doing skill-based matchmaking. Well, if you're playing against similarly skilled people, you win your matches less frequently. So people that are looking to just farm fish would rather just play against, you know, random people, because on average, random people are going to be worse than MMR pairings. They draw an extra turn effect? Are they just doubling their... No, of course, they top decked Aldrin's Epiphany. Okay. Good shit. And again, like, this is kind of what I'm highlighting, right? Like, generally speaking, our deck would be well positioned here against a control deck, because we've accrued a bunch of card advantage, but my card advantage doesn't matter when I just get combo killed, right? You can't attack these Epiphany decks with card advantage. Your only option is killing them faster, essentially. And even the counterspell aspect, like, isn't that good, right? Because of Galvanic Iteration. Like, you need to have 2 counterspells. You can't even just have 1. Well, you can't even really gain enough life to dodge the Epiphanies 2 modes against these more combo-focused builds because they take multiple Epiphanies in a turn, right? Like, the first copied Epiphany is 8 damage, and the second one, even Clerics has a hard time against the dedicated combo build 2 modes. Because, like, the second copied Epiphany does 16, and the third copy Epiphany does what? That'll be 12, it'll be 24. And then you mix in a Hall of the Storm Giants in there too. Yeah, it has some parallels to that for sure, Marsh. A little bit less powerful, obviously killing on a much later turn, but that this deck's doing something powerful that most decks and colors can't interact with is very, very true. Yeah, and even Redain's backside isn't a good answer because they have things like Prismari Command, right? And this is a good example of you can't gain life out of it, right? So like this is what? This is giving them 6 birds in 3 turns. Grinding is not good enough here. You have to just kill them. So we're gonna, in the vein of that, we're gonna board in some counter spells, but we're also boarding in extra threats, so we can try to just kill them. Is your best chance at victory is just ending the game. Something I've heard parroted from a lot of pro players that I could just completely disagree with is so many of them are of this really warped opinion that Aldrin's Epiphany doesn't matter as a finisher. It's not the thing that's actually beating you. And the way a lot of these value mid-range decks play out, Epiphany, the actual combo kill is what beats you. There's a lot of good grindy tools in this format. It's just they're all invalidated by it's like Escape Shift, right? If you've ever played Modern, it's like that, right? Like you can't grind the Escape Shift deck because it just like casts its spell and you die. And Epiphany is very similar. It requires a little bit more setup work here in Standard, but Standard is also slower, so it can require that more setup work and still be very reasonable. Blue mana, got a mulligan. The sand doesn't have any disruption, but it has a lot of threats. Yeah, I agree, Marty. There are a lot of you're like 1 turn short, and if they had a threat that was less good than Epiphany, it wouldn't stabilize the board for them. It's definitely big true. Yeah, I think that's definitely a statement I would agree with. More grindy control decks are more healthy for a format than combo control because grindy control offers a wider range of counterplay options. Whereas combo control, you need pressure plus disruption, and that's your only choice. But even if counterspells were good against it, Tomato Adept, like counterspells are fine here when you mix them with pressure. Even if you're like, well, Jeff, counterspells are good against, so you're like, okay, so your deck has to include blue cards to be competitive. That's also not a healthy stance to take. Like if your format requires me to play one specific color in order to be competitive, the format's not good. It's not interesting from a deck building perspective, at least. Yeah, and then what Boshek just said there, also comes into effect a lot of the time. Well, I need blue cards to fight the Epiphany deck. There's a good chance I should probably just cast Epiphany myself, because I'm already in blue. So, I don't think I'm supposed to play out this other Poppet Stitcher, because there's a good chance they have a sweeper plus a counterspell for my counterspell next turn. Am I saying Legacy isn't a healthy format? Yes. Wait, did they not? Are neither of these kicked? No, they're both kicked? I guess we'll save this. Have you played Legacy recently? It's just all Ragavans. Yeah, I'd believe that. It's just like Modern, basically, right? Yeah, I'm, to be completely honest, I am hopeful that they print a good answer in Crimson Vow to Epiphany that makes the format reasonable and healthy. Wizard of the Coast has a very good track record of printing powerful answers to answer problem cards that are perfectly fine. They printed Thragtusk to answer Vapor Snag, and it was fine. They printed Teferi Time Raveler to answer Wilderness Reclamation, and it was fine. Every time they push an answer to answer an obnoxious problem card, it always goes over fine. Big Cougs, thanks for the 20 months. Yeah, they printed Veil of Summer as counterplay to some of the other cards that they were having issues with. This always works out well. Watsy is truly the old lady who swallowed a fly. Yeah, no joke. No joke. Chat, some of the Magic Zoomers aren't about to understand that speech that I just gave, but it just makes it better. Just roll with it for me. Thanks for taking the time to link that up, Googs. I think I'm countering one of their draw 2 Scry 2s. It's the 20 months, man. Tricks. Okay, it's a pretty decent pickup. Okay. Okay, that's actually great, huh? Go Blank looking real good here. And we'll grab a Negate after, too. We get to take 2 cards out of their hand, and their 2 flashback cards go away here. Cake Boss, thanks for the brand new Prime. There's a ton of excellent creators here on Twitch. You can send that to every single month. Thanks for sending it this way this month and keeping me employed. It's like a 4-for-1, basically. Gosh, do I just want more of these in my graveyard? This card's really good against these dedicated combo decks. Morning Steel. Oko can miss in the other direction. I think you are very silly if you don't think Oko was explicitly designed to dodge Fry. I think that was a very, very clear and obvious, we don't want this card to die to Fry, and that's why it doesn't. It's been swell. Thanks for the entire year. Yeah, I mean, Grixis turns basically splashed go blank, black 4 go blank, right? So, if I let this bounce to my hand, I get to replay it as Malevolent Hermit, right? So, like, sure, thanks. I'll take my counter spell. Well, for what it's worth, I'm firmly on the side of Field of the Dead was fine in Historic part of history. Draco Thuban, thanks for the 2.5 years. Welcome back. Like, I would actually posit that there's a good chance, that, Historic would be better off with Field Legal right now because it would stop the control decks. Like, I don't understand how anybody can watch the Shaman's deck that we played yesterday and tell me that Field of the Dead would be oppressive in Historic. Like, there's so many turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 kill you decks in Historic. The fact that I just can't be allowed to make a bunch of zombies is so stupid. Fortunately, looking like our go blank wasn't anywhere near enough here. Yeah, that match of Magic didn't feel particularly competitive. Our opponent just killed our stuff, and then they combo killed us before we could recover. Which is kind of textbook how it goes. I don't know. So, thoughts on this? I feel like the threat density in this archetype's a little bit awkward. I'm not sure if, like, Malevolent Hermit is the right last thing. I think if you wanted to test this archetype and work on it some more, I would definitely want to try out, hey, is the white splash worth giving up creature lands for? You know, some what's it called in the mana base, some creature lands would give us a little bit of increased threat density. Go blank, while it didn't win us the game there in that last matchup, we would have lost even harder without it. So I feel like this is probably a good tool to have in that matchup. Might want to lean on more copies of these in the sideboard. There's also the question of, should you just have slightly more cards? So a card that had been impressive for us in the past is Leonin. Light Scribe, which pumps up all of your tokens whenever you cast a spell. All that being said, again, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the many archetypes in Standard that's competitive against mono green, and it's competitive against white aggro, and it's okay into other mid-range decks, but it's just not remotely good enough or competitive enough or has enough pressure or disruption to keep up with the Epiphany decks. I think there's my gut after playing that last match really says, like, this probably is just one of the many decks that's pushed out of the format by that archetype. Have I played Inscription? I know Inscription